Love and Hip Hop may have just aired its final episode, and the reason for this shocking end is tearing fans apart. Sources close to the production have confirmed what many were speculating about. Rasheeda Frost and Yandy Smith's private feud has completely devolved, and it's no longer just personal. Poisonous emotions ran high, and what began as a disagreement over loyalty and power spiraled into public humiliation, backstage chaos, and an all-out war that Van could no longer control due to leaked audio, deleted posts, cast members taking side zits, all out in the open now. But here's the worst part. Insiders said that things between Rasheeda and Yandy became so toxic that the network abruptly ended the show. The crew left, cameras were shut down in the middle of filming, and important cast members refused to come back. Fans are shocked. The industry is buzzing, and now everyone is wondering if this is really the end, because if what we're hearing is true, hip-hop didn't just end, died, and the battle that killed it is messier than anyone could have imagined. What had once been a strong friendship that had been built through years of ups and downs was slowly crumbling. And it all came to a head during a small private gathering that was supposed to be a fun evening away from the cameras. Little did anyone know that this gathering would set off a series of events that would leave fans stunned and ultimately lead to the demise of the entire Love and Hip Hop franchise. It all began with a comment that seemed innocent enough at first. The group was having dinner when Rasheeda, who had experienced a lot of drama with Kirk, joked, "I got Kirk. It's the one that's really got my back." Wasn't a jab at Yandy. But in retrospect, it was the spark that started the fire. Yandy, who had supported Rasheeda through thick and thin, couldn't help but feel betrayed because she had always considered herself to be her true friend, someone who had stood by her through thick and thin. Hearing that Kirk, who wasn't exactly known for his loyalty, was now being elevated above her, hit Yandy in a way she never expected. She tried to dismiss it, thinking perhaps it was just a casual remark, but she couldn't get rid of the uneasy feeling. The days that followed were tense, and Yandy attempted to talk to Rasheeda about how she felt, but each time she attempted to bring it up, Rasheeda would change the subject as if nothing had happened. This only made things worse. Yandy's frustration grew, and the lack of communication between them became a glaring issue. What was once an open, honest friendship now felt like a cold war, with both women unwilling to address the underlying tension. Eventually, Yandy reached her breaking point. During a private meeting, she confronted Rasheeda about the situation. "I've been there for you, Rasheeda, through everything. But now I feel like you don't even see me as a friend anymore," Yandy said, her voice trembling with emotion. "How could you just push me aside like that?" Yandy's emotions caught Rasheeda off guard, and she struggled to come up with an answer. "Yandy, I didn't mean it like that," she said, her voice wavering. "But Kirk's been here for me in ways that you don't understand. Maybe I just need him right now." The words didn't sit well with Yandy, who felt dismissive, as if Rasheeda was choosing Kirk over their friendship. The confrontation was heated, but what happened next was even more shocking. Yandy felt the weight of Rasheeda's face hardened, and she immediately became defensive. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Not picking Kirk over you, but maybe you need to understand that not everything is about you. I'm dealing with my own stuff, right?" Rasheeda's words snapped. "So that's it? After everything we've been through, you're just going to throw me aside for Kirk?" She shot back, her anger rising. "I thought we were sisters, but I guess I was wrong." Yandy's voice was filled with pain. And it was obvious that wasn't just about Kirk, now that Yandy wasn't having it. The damage was done, and no amount of justifications could. "Perhaps it wasn't about me," but she snapped back with a cold, sharp voice, making the tension between the two women unbearable. What had begun as a minor disagreement had escalated into a full-fledged argument, and it was obvious that their friendship was about to fall apart. However, things didn't end there. The altercation between Yandy and Rasheeda was only the start of what would turn into a season of hip-hop and love drama. The producers, sensing that things were getting out of hand, attempted to mediate. The rift between Yandy and Rasheeda had begun to affect the entire production, and it was becoming clear that the show couldn't continue in its current form. The rest of the cast could feel the shift too, with a few cameras rolling. The once harmonious group dynamic was now fractured, and it was getting harder to ignore the palpable tension. The crew was walking on eggshells, unsure whether they were going to witness another argument or confrontation at any given moment. The fans also felt the change, and social media exploded with reactions. Some fans sympathized with Yandy, understanding her feelings of betrayal and hurt, while others took Rasheeda's side. It was clear, the drama was real and only going to get worse. The public feud between Yandy and Rasheeda had taken center stage during the season, overshadowing everything else that happened on the show. As the season went on, it became clear that things weren't going to get better anytime soon. Every interaction between the two women felt strained, and their on-screen appearances became more uncomfortable. Behind-the-scenes rumors of a possible departure started to surface, and Yandy had begun to distance herself from the group. She was planning to leave Love and Hip Hop permanently, and the rumors only made the already tense situation worse. The tension reached a climax during a group event where the cast was forced to face each other in the same room. The cameras were rolling and the tension was thick. Yandy and Rasheeda exchanged scathing remarks, each trying to outdo the other in terms of cutting remarks. The argument became more heated, and it became evident that things were irreparable. The friendship was dead, and with it the last shred of the show's heart. The producers had to make a difficult decision. Could Love and Hip Hop survive without the main characters that had carried the show for years? Would fans still tune in if the core relationships were no longer intact? That question was on everyone's mind as the season finale approached. The fallout between Yandy and Rasheeda had taken on a life of its own. What had started as a small argument between friends had turned into a full-fledged public feud. And with each new episode, the tension between the two was getting harder to ignore. Fans were caught in the middle of this conflict, their allegiances divided between the two women who had been essential to hip-hop and love for so long. Yandy, the strategist, had always been someone who knew how to play the game. She had built her career on navigating tricky situations, whether it was in her personal life or on the show. She had always been the one to remain composed even when others were losing their temper. But this time it was different. The betrayal she felt from Rasheeda was more painful than anything she had ever experienced before. And the bond they had shared was gone, replaced by a simmering bitterness that was difficult to ignore. The worst part was that Yandy couldn't understand how it had all gone wrong. She had always supported Rasheeda through thick and thin, so why was she suddenly the villain? Rasheeda was going through her own emotional turmoil, and she had always taken pride in being a devoted wife to Kirk and a helpful friend to Yandy, but with everything that was going on, she couldn't help but feel torn. Rasheeda had tried to keep things together for the sake of her family and her career, but everything was falling apart in front of her eyes. The fact that cameras were always in their faces recording every moment of this private struggle didn't help either. The weight of the situation was getting to be too much for her to handle, and even though she wanted to mend things with Yandy, she couldn't ignore the fact that she had a family to take care of. Kirk's constant drama, the pressure to maintain her brand, and the conflict with Yandy were all contributing to her feeling like she was going to lose it all. It was obvious that the drama was at a boiling point and that there was no turning. Back when Yandy posted a cryptic message on social media, she had always been careful with her words, but in the heat of the moment, she let her emotions take over. You can't expect loyalty when you've been betrayed. The post was read by fans, who immediately started speculating that the message was directed at Rasheeda. The comment section exploded with people taking sides, with some fans siding with Rasheeda and others supporting Yandy. In response, the situation only got worse. Although the drama pushed for a face-to-face confrontation between Yandy and Rasheeda, they were unaware of how raw and emotional the confrontation would become. The day of filming arrived, and both Yandy and Rasheeda were reluctant to meet. It wasn't just the cameras that made the situation uncomfortable, but the genuine emotions that they both felt. Normally, Yandy was the one who kept her emotions in. Check. But today she was struggling. Her face was tight with anger, her lips pressed in a thin line, and she was ready too. Rasheeda, on the other hand, appeared worn out. Her face was pale, and her eyes were red from crying the night before. She had never imagined that things would get to this point. She had always been a peacemaker who tried to avoid conflict whenever possible, but now it seemed like she had no choice but to face the woman she had once called a friend. The weight of the situation was taking a toll on her, and she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep it together. As they sat down to talk, the tension in the air was evident. "I don't even know where to start," Yandy said in a weak voice. "Rasheeda, I've been loyal to you, but now you've shut me out, ignored my calls, and acted as though I don't matter anymore. Do you know how that feels?" Rasheeda sighed deeply, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have to understand that I have a family to think about. Kirk has been going through a lot, and I can't just drop everything to focus on this. I've tried to balance everything, but it's been hard. Hurt you, but I can't keep pretending like everything is fine." Her eyes flashed with frustration. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything unsaid, and both women were struggling to maintain their composure. But it was obvious that the raw emotion between them was spilling over. The cameras captured every moment, every tear, and every word spoken, but wasn't just drama for the sake of drama. It was real, and it was obvious that neither of them knew how to mend what had been broken. "I'm asking you to stop acting like I'm the enemy. You've been shutting me out for weeks, and I can't just sit back and watch it happen. This isn't the time." Yandy Kirk, who had been watching the confrontation unfold from the sidelines, said as he stepped into the frame. "Rasheeda has been dealing with a lot, and you need to understand that we're family. We don't just throw everything away over one argument." The argument became more heated as both women raised their voices, made accusations, and stopped speaking in the calm, controlled manner they were used to. They were shouting, crying, and, for the first time, showing the full extent of the pain they had been hiding. It's like the dam broke. This wasn't just another dramatic moment. It was a turning point for the show, with their relationships on the line. The question remained: could they mend what had been broken? Or was this the last chapter in a story that had captivated millions as the confrontation between Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk continued to escalate? The stakes were higher than ever, and Yandy's face flushed with anger, and she shot back. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't know what she's been going through? But you're not the one who's been cut out of her life. You're not the one who's been abandoned." Tear every moment of pure emotion that was taking place in front of millions of people. But this wasn't just drama for entertainment purposes. It was the unadulterated breakdown of relationships that had once seemed unbreakable. The situation had changed from being a private dispute to a public spectacle, and with each second that went by, it felt like love and hip-hop were about to collapse irrevocably. Rasheeda, who had always been the one to keep the peace and try to smooth over the difficult times in her relationships, could feel the weight of her actions sinking in. While everything was being fixed, things were falling apart. "I didn't want this to happen, Yandy," she said in a soft but painful voice. I never thought we'd get here." Yandy's face briefly softened, but the anger in her heart was still too fresh for her to let go of. "Then why did you push me away, Rasheeda? Why did you shut me out when I needed you the most?" Yandy's voice cracked as she spoke, the hurt she had been holding inside finally surfacing. "I've always been there for you, through everything, and now you're telling me that none of that matters?" The camera focused on Yandy's face as she wiped away a tear, revealing that she was struggling just as much as Yandy. "You must realize that Rasheeda was going through a lot. and her voice was shaking as she said, "I have a lot going on in my life right now. And Kirk has been going through things, and I can't just drop everything for this. I'm torn between being a wife and a friend, and right now I don't know how to do either." Kirk, who had been quietly watching the entire exchange, intervened once more. "I'm here trying to support you, but you've been shutting me out too. I've been dealing with my own stuff, and you know that this isn't just on me." Rasheeda turned to Kirk and begged for understanding, saying, "I've been holding everything together for us, for our family. I've been trying to balance everything, but I can't keep doing it alone. I'm not asking for sympathy, but I need you to see what I'm going through? Breaking down, and you're not here." The argument had reached a fever pitch, and the entire set was filled with an awkward silence as everyone, Yandy, still hurt by Rasheeda's words and actions, stood up and started to pace, her frustration evident. "Do you even care about how I'm feeling right now?" Yandy asked, her voice shaking with emotion. "You've been distant, and now you're telling me that you've been struggling too. It's not just about you, Rasheeda. I've been dealing with my own stuff, and I've been there for you every step of the way. And this is what I get," Rasheeda, who had been holding it together as best she could. It was a painful moment of vulnerability that no one had anticipated witnessing. The strong, self-assured women who had always been the cornerstones of their respective families completely unraveling in front of the cameras for the first time. It seemed as though neither of them knew what to do next. The damage was done, and the emotional scars were deep. Wasn't just a fight between friends, was a breaking point for everything they had built, both on and off the screen. The fans, who had been following this drama? Tears came streaming down her face as she collapsed into a chair, her emotions overwhelming her. They had been following Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk's journey through the highs and lows of their personal lives for years, but this was something no one had expected. The betrayal, heartbreak, and tears were all too much, and fans flooded social media with their disbelief and anger over what was happening. Many of them took sides in support of their favorite stars, but others were left wondering if Love and Hip Hop could ever recover from this. The show's producers, who had been watching the drama unfold, knew that this moment was crucial because it wasn't just about the drama or the ratings. If Yandy and Rasheeda couldn't work it out, it would affect the show's future. What did their broken friendship mean for the show? Love and Hip Hop had always survived on the drama and relationships between its stars. But now it seemed like the cracks were too deep to patch. The audience could sense the tension, and the producers realized that something needed to change. This was no longer just a show. It was a ticking time bomb, and they were helpless to stop it. In the days that followed, the drama intensified, with Yandy and Rasheeda still at odds, and their social media accounts full of cryptic posts and passive-aggressive remarks. Fans continued to wonder what would happen to Love and Hip Hop. As the episode came to an end, the future of Love and Hip Hop hung in the balance. The once unbreakable bonds between Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk had been shattered, and the emotional fallout was just beginning. Fans were left wondering if the women would be able to heal their wounds and restore their friendships, or if this was the end of an era for the beloved franchise. The producers, sensing the mounting pressure, called an emergency meeting with the cast to discuss the future of the show. No one could predict how the meeting would turn out, but one thing was certain: the tension was reaching a boiling point. Following the heated altercation, both Yandy and Rasheeda took to social media to share their sides of the story, but their attempts to do so only seemed to make matters worse. The emotional devastation left in the wake of their public fallout affected not only the two women but also everyone around them, including friends, family, and fans. They were left wondering whether the drama could be salvaged or if it was the irrevocable end of a long-running series. As the fallout spread throughout the entire Love and Hip Hop cast and beyond, Rasheeda was betrayed in the most terrible way possible. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest, Yandy wrote in her post, adding a string of hashtags that made it clear how deeply hurt she was. Rasheeda's response was equally emotional but also defiant, writing, "I never asked for this drama," she wrote. "I've always been there for Yandy, and I never thought she would turn on me like this. I guess I was mistaken." The two women's wounds seemed to worsen, and the already brittle bridge between them started to fall apart. And passive-aggressive posts, while Kirk, who had been caught in the middle of this drama, was subjected to a barrage of criticism from fans. Some accused him of adding to the distance between the two women, while others blamed him for not being more supportive of Rasheeda during this trying time. Kirk, who had always avoided public conflict, found himself thrust into the spotlight once more. He tried his best to defend himself, but the damage was done, and fans started to wonder if Kirk's actions were to blame for the breakup of Rasheeda's friendship with Yandy, and whether he had been subtly undermining their relationship all along. It was evident that this conflict was too deep to resolve in a single episode, and it was starting to feel like the show might not survive the aftermath. The producers were in crisis mode, trying to figure out how to salvage the show after ratings had started to dip and the viewers' attention had begun to shift. The show was divided into two factions, one of which supported Rasheeda and the other supported Yandy. The tension on set was palpable during filming, and the once close friendships were now broken. And the atmosphere on set had become increasingly hostile, was moving away from the original plots to the real-life drama that was taking place. Fans were enmeshed in the emotional roller coaster of the cast members' personal lives and were no longer just watching Love and Hip Hop. They were living it. The producers tried to calm the mounting unrest by bringing Yandy and Rasheeda together for an on-camera meeting in the hopes that the two women could reach a consensus. But when the cameras rolled, it became evident that things were far from Labo. And we all know I've been exploring that path. The producers try to calm the mounting unrest by memo. I see as we record CDs as we see. And when we see as we see and we see and we see in the CDs, evened piecing LYF with KCD. I see if I see with memo. Away with the owls. We see LYCD, Kunrikan Sari Poor with Kanimu Kana Kani Kai Ka, you go to you Kate ups and you ski to say I see to Sakami, I cookie you so with the do kakar with Kita you do with the getting wet cook the weed of you I man we get at a can are with being resolved. I'm done trying to fix this, Yandy said in a cold and aloof voice. There's no point in pretending anymore if this is how the meeting ended in silence. With neither woman willing to take the first step toward reconciliation, the rest of the cast, who had been watching from the sidelines, exchanged anxious looks. Rasheeda's face tightened, her eyes narrowing as she stared at Yandy, who was the one who left first. Rasheeda's voice was full of accusations. I tried to make things right, but you kept pushing me away. Now you're acting like the victim. That's rich. Fans were devastated by the drama, as many had spent years watching the journeys of Yandy, Rasheeda, Kirk, and the rest of the Love and Hip Hop cast. Watching the relationships they had grown to love fall apart in such a public and brutal way left many feeling betrayed. And they flooded social media with sentiments of disappointment and sadness. One fan tweeted, "I can't believe this is happening," saying, "I've been watching Love and Hip Hop for years, and now it's all falling apart. This is so messed up." The tension kept building behind the scenes, and producers worked tirelessly to find a way to keep the show afloat. However, as each day went by, the reality set in, and Love and Hip Hop became more and more apparent to fans. Who knew that the show was about to collapse? The emotional destruction caused by the Yandy-Rasheeda feud had torn apart the show's fabric, and it seemed impossible to put it all back together. In a last-ditch attempt to save the show, producers decided to enlist outside assistance, hiring a mediator to meet with Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk in an attempt to ease the tension and find a way forward. But even that meeting ended in failure. The producers, after months of trying to save the show, made the difficult decision to pause production. citing the toxic atmosphere and the unresolvable conflict between the cast members. Was a devastating blow for the show's devoted fans who had followed the drama for years. As the news spread, social media erupted in reactions, with some fans in disbelief and others in mourning. It was evident that the conflict between Yandy and Rasheeda was something that could not be easily fixed. And the wounds of betrayal were too deep to be healed in a single conversation. One admirer said, "I never thought it would come to this. This show was everything," referring to the demise of hip-hop and love. Many people felt that the producers should have done more to stop the situation from getting worse for Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk. Their personal lives were now irrevocably changed, and the once thriving love and hip-hop empire had collapsed under the weight of their emotional turmoil. The internet was flooded with messages of support for the cast members, but also frustration with how things had gotten out of control. And when the cameras stopped rolling, the stars were left to pick up the pieces of their broken relationships. What began as a show full of drama, love, and complicated relationships has now turned into a public spectacle that no one could have predicted. With Yandy and Rasheeda's public feud now in the open, and Kirk caught in the middle of it all, it's obvious that love and hip-hop will never be the same, and fans are devastated by the breakdown of these once strong bonds. Wondering whether the show can ever recover from such a catastrophic fallout. However, the biggest question is still, what's next for the future of love and hip-hop? Is this the end of the beloved franchise? The world will undoubtedly be keenly observing to see if Yandy, Rasheeda, and Kirk can overcome this significant turning point in their lives. But there is still hope for reconciliation, even though we don't have all the answers. What do you think, considering the startling events in the worlds of hip-hop and romance? Do you believe the program can recover from this, or is this really it? Please share your ideas in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Keep checking back for more exclusive updates exclusively on our website to be informed about the most recent happenings.